Businesses and individuals unable to meet contractual obligations due to COVID-19 can now turn to temporary relief measures put in place by the government. This includes relief from legal action. It's all part of the Temporary Measures Act, which will be in force for 6 months. For a closer look on this, we're joined by Edwin Tong, Senior Minister of State for Law, and Douglas Fu, President of the Singapore Manufacturing Federation. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Senior Minister, I'll come to you first. Help us understand how the government narrowed down to the 5 broad categories covered by the law, and why does it not include all sectors, since all industries are understandably impacted by COVID-19?
Well, thank you very much for having us. First, I must say that this is a unique piece of legislation. It's one that allows the government to effectively intervene in private arrangements and private contracts. It's not unprecedented, but quite rare. So we've got to be careful how we scope it and how we calibrate it. But we're also in the middle of a very deep crisis, one that's causing widespread economic devastation, and many businesses are suffering. So we started with 5 broad categories where we felt would have the biggest impact in terms of the number of persons who might benefit from this. Tourism events, I think, is fairly self-explanatory. The most immediate and deepest impact is probably first felt in that sector. And then we have SME loans, we have construction contracts, landlord tenancy arrangements as well, all commercial and industrial arrangements, tenancies. And when you run a business, you're likely to be holding on to a business lease of some sort. So we feel that it's the broad spectrum of individuals and small businesses that can benefit from this. And even though it's 5 categories, you probably know from Parliament that it affects about 120 billion in terms of value, just these 5 areas alone. And on top of that, we have scoped the bill such that we are able to step up and increase and include more categories if there is a need to.
Well, SMS, the law also excludes contracts entered into, on, or after the 25th of March this year. Help us understand, what's the rationale behind setting and choosing this date?
Well, this bill deals with arrangements that are taken on board earlier when the world looked like a very different place. Obligations that parties thought they could perform, they could pay, they could get supplies. But because of the unexpected turn of events, they are no longer able to. So we set 25th of March as a cutoff date because by that time, the MOH had issued fairly strict guidelines on control measures. And by that time, I think no one who entered into a contract could say they didn't know what the world looked like, they didn't know what the situation was, both in Singapore and also elsewhere in the world. So to be fair, we've set that as the cutoff date so that neither party can bring a claim if the contract entered into after that date.
Douglas, how has the response from the manufacturing sector been like so far?
Well, the response from the manufacturing and the business community in general has been a sense of relief, because after so many things that's actually been going through for the last couple of weeks, this is a very innovative way of using a legal framework to put some certainty, or at least put on hold all these contracts that our manufacturing businesses have signed, and give us a sense of relief so that we could wait for things to normalize, and from there look at how we should take it forward. In fact, from there, I will actually have a question for the Minister that for the rental, for those that are asking for 6 months relief, is there a maximum cap? Because some of them are looking and will apply to actually delay for 6 months. But how does it impact if, let's say, at the end of the 6 months, the SMEs are still not able to fulfill their obligations?
And what are the biggest concerns?
First of all, it's up.
Oh, sorry, carry on, Senior Minister.
Yes, first of all, it's up to 6 months, so the assessor has to judge on each case. And of course, no one knows how long this will last. But what this act does is allows the parties to keep the position, hold the line, develop a moratorium, and allow people to do it in the comfort of not being sued in court, don't have bankruptcies or insolvencies take place so easily, allow parties some breathing space, given that these events have been so sudden and unexpected. And let parties negotiate and work through. And I think with the benefit of time, people can have frank conversations about where the business is going, how it might look after the events are over, and then work through in a more organized and systemic way without the threat of litigation all over the place, what they might want to do beyond this. So that's the purpose of the 6 months, up to 6 months.
Douglas, so what are some of the biggest concerns of SMEs at this point then? You know, to what extent will the changes actually made under the law be useful to them, judging from what SMS has just said?
Well, it's actually very useful because right now there are 3 C's that they're concerned with. Number one, the cost that is weighing down on them, the cash flow, and the credit facility. So right now, if let's say they are bogged down with a cost of, for example, paying rental, which they are unable to pay because of the COVID-19 situation, then how do they continue to sustain the business? How do they keep the business afloat? Because this is a pandemic, and we need to understand that this is not extinguishing their obligations to pay, but actually pushing it down. So that's why earlier on we mentioned about it being very innovative, because it actually push it down, let everything stays on hold for a while. Because during these 6 months, if we're going to have landlords evicting tenants and lots of suits ongoing, businesses will be all disrupted. And that's why for us, I think it is essential that this opportunity has given everybody some breathing space to relook at their models and how to move forward together. As what Minister has mentioned, how do they work together? Because this is a time when everybody goes to get some pain, and I think it's working on how to be very fair to move this forward. If I have an opportunity again, I would just want to clarify. One of the concerns right now is through the passing of this bill, are enterprises which needs to hold their AGM able to do it on virtual, or do the companies need to wait for the minister to put an order in the Gazette?
Senior Minister, one last question for you before we let you both go. On the applications for the relief, how will the assessors ensure outcomes are fair? Are there stipulated guidelines that are set in place for them?
Yes, thank you. I think in this arrangement, the assessors will play a very important role. They have a task to make. There will be guidelines to ensure consistency across the different cases. But I think the overall guidance to them that we give is to be sympathetic to the situation, not to be overly legalistic and find legal solutions. That's not their role. It's to find a fair outcome, judge each case differently on its facts, and come to an arrangement that I think best allows the parties to have fairness and also have some time to work out their solutions. I just want to add that since we announced this bill, many people have stepped forward. That's very heartening. They come forward, volunteer to be assessors, put their hand up and say they'll count us in. And these are people from the legal sector, accountants, the industry and business people, experts. So they're close to 200 volunteers now, and they will be put into teams led by state court judges. And then from there, they will be equipped, briefed, have some training, and then they'll be equipped to assess each case. And I'd like to say we thank them very much, because it's been very heartening to be faced with such a warm response when we ask for volunteers.
And thank you both as well very much for sharing all that with us this evening. Edwin Tong, Senior Minister of State for Law, and Douglas Fu, President of the Singapore Manufacturing Federation.